Good afternoon, class. Just wanted to go over a few things for your week 4 at-home learning. I know that a lot of you have maybe finished all this or started already, but I just want to kind of go over it to lead into next week to kind of guide you through this lesson and then the one that we'll have in the few days to come. We're going to go over a few things on each sheet, and then we're just going to go over how to answer back one of the questions with the rule strategy, and then how to kind of look at words such as germinate and other words that maybe you're not familiar with, and then break it down into something more simplistic for you. So the title of here is the From Flowers to Fruit, and as you notice, you start off with the header, which is the plant life cycles. So most of the words that we always see that are bold and darkened, they're going to be more important words, or what we're leading toward, or what the model is. If you have a highlighter, you don't have to have one, but I'll just do it for highlighting purposes. You want to highlight all the words that are darkened or bold, and you want to then go ahead and look back at the reading to what matches. So as we highlight all these words, you'll start to see that these are the ones that are highlighted because these are what they're talking about or explaining. Now if you look at this word here, germinates, it seems like a pretty big word, or you may not know what it means. Just so on a side note, if you want to go ahead and write the word germinates, as we used to do in class, we would take a big word and we would break it down into its most elementary form. And all germinate means is to grow. So anytime that you see germinates, you can just fill it in to grow. So here the seed grows. And if you look here at the model of the seed, it says the seed is planted, then the seed germinates. So you'll see that the seed then on the next sprout grows. So that's all that word means. So anytime you see the word germinate, you know now that it matches a smaller word that means grow. If you want to add arrows to the boxes, you can add arrows to the boxes because this is the sequence of the cycle. And then these would be the order at which these cycles are going to appear. Now if you look here on the top of the last two, you see that it says adult plant. The flower is always the one that has to be pollinated before the fruit in the final stage can be made. If the flower is never pollinated, then the fruit cannot happen. If you look here at the second question, it tells you to look at the apple, which is all whole here, and then this one's cut in half. It asks you to describe the life cycle of an apple tree. If you don't know offhand what that might be, the next pages will actually tell you what it is that you're doing. So if you look at this activity, the fruit of this activity would be an apple. So if you go by the order of all of this, you don't have to color it. It's totally up to you if you'd like to. But if it helps you, that's great. And then you see that the 5th, the 6th, and the 7th slide shows the finalization of this apple tree. And then you're just going to write what do you think happens next, rather it be by words or by an illustration. And that's going to help you with number 2 on this lesson. If you see here, it shows you another, again, diagram of a petal or a flower part. So you have the pollen, which is then here at the top, which then enters the seed formation of the pistil, the petal, and the stamen. So these are all good things to know about what's the makeup of a flower. And then underneath here, you'll see that we have also more bold words like we did on the last page. These bold words will then be explained in the reading before or after they've been in the reading. And this kind of tells you what our topic is throughout the actual article itself. So as you read this, just be clear with these words that are bold, and they're going to be important as you go further. Now sometimes some words are not bolded, but you may want to then bullet point or highlight the bullet point, because then this is important to know that these animals are the ones that actually transport the pollen from plant to plant. If you have a QR reader and you want to see some videos or some more examples, these are some good areas to look at. If you, I think if you don't have a QR code, but you're on the digital learning, you can click on it and it'll take you to the video that you need to see. For number 6 here, you're just going to pick whichever fruit that you prefer, and then all you want to do is write about it as the process of pollination. You can go right back to the apple, which is the one shown on our diagram or our slides. You can pick any fruit and it's almost the same, but some are from different areas of growth. Spending time to explain. So all I want you to do is just take a few sentences to write the order at which pollination happens to one of these 2 fruits or 4 fruits. The linguistic accommodation here, if you see that you have 4 answer choices, you have a sentence of each section or 2, and you want to make sure that each correct word is used once in the correct spot. And so as you do that, the best way to do it, if you want to read it, is you want to read the sentence up to the blank, and then you want to go and read the rest of the sentence to the blank. And then once you get to your period, you want to go ahead and stop. And you can look and see if this word fits best here as you read it, kind of like in your reading class, and you can see if that word best suits the blank that's correct, or when we skip it and then we can go ahead and move somewhere else. So if we try the first one, we're going to try flower. It says a bee or another pollinator flower the apple. Flower. That doesn't really sound correct, so we can't use flower here. A bee or another pollinator fruit the flower. Well, that's the last stage of a plant, so that doesn't make sense. A bee or another pollinator pollen the flower by moving from blank to flower, gathering pollen. Well, if you read the last sentence, you can't pollen the apple to gather pollen, so it has to be then pollinates. A bee or another pollinator pollinates the apple flower by moving from blank to flower. So this one would appear then to be flower. And now that you have these 2 in the correct spot, just go ahead and cross them out. And then you can do the other 2 down here by just sounding out which word sounds correct or best to go in the blank provided. The extension here is very similar to the one that we did on number 6. You're just going to look to pick a bee, a bird, or a butterfly. And from the perspective of the point of view, the pollinator you choose, whichever one you did pick, explain how you would pollinate the flower and how the flower becomes a fruit. So that's just up to your interpretation. I'll go ahead and zoom in real quick to the rules category. Now, some of this is probably even harder to see even when you have it. But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and read and reread again the first question. We're going to underline 3 or 4 words if they're possible. Sometimes it is a lot less than 3 to 4 words. Label and draw if we need to, anything that would help us to find our answer. Then we're going to eliminate wrong answers and then select the best choice. So if we look here, the question's asking, what is the correct sequence or order? So these 2 words mean the same thing, of a flowering plant's life cycle. So if we're going to read it again, we're going to go and say, what is the correct sequence or order of a flowering plant's life cycle? So we have 2 words then. We can go ahead and do plant's life cycle. And that gives us our R and U of our rule strategy. And if I look at my answer choices, I see that there's seed, fruit, seed, and seed. And one of the biggest things you can do is always go back to your reading to make sure that we have everything listed as we needed to. So if I go back to my chart, I can see that there's a model given to me at the beginning that shows me which one is necessarily needed. And so if I put my questionnaire here, I can see that the first one starts off with a seed. So I'm going to go ahead and write seed here, and then I can draw this first cycle. And so if I look here, I can go ahead and take fruit out because it didn't start off with a fruit. B would be incorrect. And then if I go to the next one, it says that the flower is next, or the adult's next. And so if I look here, on our model it shows sprout, young plant, flower, and adult. So if I look here, the adult plant is next based on this one. And we can just draw a little plant. You don't have to draw it anything. So then we see here that we have seed, 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 flower, adult, adult. So flower here is not the correct use. And so now it has to be between C and D. So we've done 2 of our answers incorrectly, and we have 2 answers left. And so if I go here again and draw the next category, I'm looking for flower or fruit. And if I look, I've got the adult plant, and the next one would be flower. And so I'm going to put flower here. And then if I look, you can just draw any kind of bud and leaves on your plant. And this would give the justification of your flower. And so now here you can pick that the answer has to be then C, because fruit is our last choice of our plant model. Okay. And then you can write an apple if you want. You can draw. And so what you can do is then you use this strategy for the second question, and then you can go ahead and submit your answers either through the text or email or the classroom if you are able to go through another teacher's format. Guys, if there's any questions on this, just feel free to ask me. It should be pretty straightforward. This lesson will actually help you with next week's lesson as well. And then we're going to go into inherited traits for the next week, but we'll use the same strategies of the rules, and we'll look at all the diagrams to help us answer correctly our questions that are asked for us for mastery. Guys, y'all have a great day. Y'all have a great weekend coming up as well. Be safe, and we'll talk to you next week sometime. Thank you.